What if I told you that your American citizenship, something you thought was permanent, could actually be revoked? If you're a naturalized U.S. citizen, this isn't just a hypothetical scenario. It's called denaturalization, and the Department of Justice just made it a top priority in 2025. Hi, I am attorney Jay Francis. I am a U.S. immigration lawyer based in Chicago and Wisconsin, but serve all 50 states. In today's video, we're breaking down everything you need to know about denaturalization, the legal process, where the U.S. government can strip citizenship from naturalized Americans. Whether you're a naturalized citizen yourself, have family members who are, or you're simply interested in understanding your rights, this information is crucial. We'll cover what denaturalization means and who it affects. The two legal grounds for losing your citizenship, why the DOJ's June 2025 memo is causing concern among immigration experts. Real cases where people have lost their citizenship, what happens to you and your family if you're denaturalized, important legal protections you should know about, with recent changes making denaturalization a high priority for federal prosecutors. Understanding this process has never been more important. From terrorism to financial fraud, the categories for investigation have expanded significantly. Some experts worry about creating second-class citizens. Stay tuned as we explore the critical question: how permanent is U.S. citizenship really?
Imagine waking up one day and realizing that your U.S. citizenship, something you thought was permanent, could just vanish. It's a really unsettling prospect, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like a nightmare scenario. So, what's the mechanism behind this possibility?
Well, it revolves around a process known as denaturalization. Essentially, it means that the government can revoke the citizenship of someone who became a citizen through naturalization, not by birth. So only naturalized citizens are at risk here, not those born here.
Exactly. It's a legal process, usually requiring a judicial order, and it's not done lightly. It often involves civil court proceedings or even criminal cases if fraud is involved in obtaining citizenship. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a serious matter. The legal grounds break down into two main categories: illegal procurement and deliberate deceit.
Can you explain what illegal procurement really means?
Sure, it's like this. If someone becomes a citizen but actually wasn't eligible, say they didn't meet the good moral character requirement, they fall under this category, like in the Sammy Chang case. Chang had a history of smuggling women, which disqualified him from meeting the moral standard, even if he never lied during naturalization.
Wow, that's pretty severe. So it's not only about lying on your application, but also about actions from your past that, in hindsight, should have disqualified you, right?
Exactly, yep. It's about the fundamental eligibility criteria. Even without intentional lying, if your background shows serious issues, then your naturalized status can be questioned.
And then there's the second ground, deliberate deceit. That applies when someone intentionally conceals or misrepresents a material fact, correct?
Right on. If someone, say, hides a crucial fact about their past, facts that, if revealed, would have led to a denial of citizenship, they can be denaturalized. An example of this is the Norma Borgono case, where a grandmother failed to disclose her involvement in a fraud scheme.
That raises some tough questions. But isn't there a safeguard for cases where minor errors occurred? I mean, not everything is on purpose, right?
Absolutely. There's a significant legal protection here. The Supreme Court's decision in Maslanjak versus United States in 2017 made it clear that minor mistakes or omissions that wouldn't have changed the outcome of the naturalization process aren't grounds for denaturalization. Only misrepresentations that directly influence the citizenship decision count.
That makes sense, though I still wonder about the line between a minor omission and a material one. It seems, a bit subjective, doesn't it?
It can be, yes, and that's part of the controversy. The burden of proof is heavy. For civil cases, the government has to prove things by clear, convincing evidence, and in criminal cases, it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt.
And then there's the recent shift from the Department of Justice, right? The memo from June 11th, 2025, signed by Assistant Attorney General Brett Shumate. That seems to, change everything.
Exactly. Yep. That memo raised the priority of denaturalization cases dramatically. It identifies specific categories of individuals, those involved in terrorism, espionage, torture, human trafficking, alarming financial fraud against the government, and more, as prime targets.
It's interesting because it shows a proactive approach by the DOJ. But, isn't there a risk in having such a broad mandate? It could unfairly target naturalized citizens, right?
That's a very valid point. The memo, while outlining those specific groups, also leaves room for broad discretion. Basically, the DOJ can pursue additional cases it considers significant. Some experts even worry that this could lead to creating a sort of second-class citizenship for naturalized individuals. It's a real slippery slope.
I agree. The potential for abuse is concerning. And when you think about it, the repercussions are severe. Once denaturalized, all rights vanish instantly, right?
Right. Once you lose your citizenship, you lose everything. Voting rights, the ability to travel with a US passport, eligibility for benefits. More importantly, your citizenship status reverts to what it was before naturalization, making you subject to deportation.
And imagine the impact on families. Could family members lose their citizenship too?
It really depends on the reason behind the denaturalization. If it's due to intentional deceit, then family members who derive their citizenship from that person might also be at risk. However, if it's simply about illegal procurement, such as failing to meet eligibility criteria, the family members usually retain their citizenship.
Right.
But even then, it creates a chilling effect on families.
That's a heartbreaking aspect. It affects not just the individual, but an entire family unit, potentially upending lives.
Absolutely, and that's why many view this as a critical issue. It's about questioning the permanence of citizenship itself. If the government can revoke something as fundamental as citizenship, what does that say about our system?
It really makes you wonder about the balance between ensuring a genuine, honest naturalization process and protecting the rights of those who have earned their place in the country.
Right? It's like, we want to maintain the integrity of the process, but at the same time, we need to preserve a sense of security and stability for citizens. And this issue really sits at the intersection of national security and personal rights.
Speaking of national security, what about the high-profile case of Elliot Duke? His case seems like a disturbing example of where denaturalization has led not just to loss of citizenship, but also to statelessness.
Exactly. Elliot Duke, a British veteran, lost his citizenship because he didn't disclose his involvement with child sexual abuse material during his naturalization process. Even without a conviction at the time, the omission was deemed critical. And as a result, he ended up stateless. That's a truly alarming consequence.
Statelessness is frankly one of the worst outcomes, being stuck without the rights or protections offered by any country.
Precisely, and it completely upends a person's life, making them vulnerable to deportation and loss of basic civil rights. It's a stark reminder of how our legal definitions of citizenship can be re-examined and potentially manipulated.
And while we're on the subject of legal protections, isn't it interesting how the Maslanjak decision plays into this by ensuring that only significant misrepresentations lead to denaturalization?
Yes, it's a crucial safeguard. The decision emphasized that only deceit that directly impacted the naturalization decision should count. It's like saying, minor slip-ups, mistakes even, shouldn't cost you your citizenship. It helps to prevent overreach.
But even with these legal protections, the increased prioritization by the DOJ seems to run counter to the idea of citizenship permanence. Do you think that's a fair critique?
I do see that tension. On one hand, the government is clearly aiming to protect the integrity of the naturalization process and national security. But on the other hand, it inadvertently sows doubt about the security of one's citizenship, especially for naturalized immigrants. It creates a scenario where citizenship might feel conditional rather than absolute.
That's a compelling, albeit concerning, perspective. The fact that naturalized citizens might be made to feel less secure in their status is a heavy blow to the idea of a permanent home, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it forces us to ask, what does citizenship really mean? Is it a lifelong guarantee, or is it something that can be retracted if past actions come to light?
Yeah,
It's a debate that has profound implications for social and legal policy.
and it all ties back to the fundamental principles of fairness and individual rights. It seems like this whole denaturalization debate is a balancing act between national security inspections and respecting the permanence of a citizen's right to belong.
Exactly that. And while the DOJ memo may be seen as a necessary measure against misuse of citizenship by those involved in serious crimes, it also raises ethical questions about due process and equality. It's a double-edged sword.
I have to say, though, I'm a bit critical of the broad discretionary power given to the DOJ in this area. It seems like that could lead to arbitrary decisions. Wouldn't you agree?
I get where you're coming from. The broad language in the memo, while allowing flexibility, does risk arbitrary application. That's why continued judicial oversight and clear legal standards are so important to balance security with fairness.
Absolutely. And we really need a system that both maintains integrity in the naturalization process and, at the same time, upholds the promise of permanent citizenship for those who have earned it.
Right. It's a tough, complex issue that reflects the evolving nature of citizenship. It reminds us that citizenship isn't just a piece of paper. It's a fundamental element of identity and belonging, one that deserves protection and careful oversight. It's definitely a conversation worth having as we navigate these changing times.
Final thoughts. What is the future of citizenship security in America? So let's recap what we've learned about denaturalization in 2025. We've seen that this process exclusively targets naturalized citizens, not those born in the U.S., and requires either illegal procurement of citizenship or deliberate deception during the naturalization process. The DOJ's recent prioritization of these cases, combined with broad discretionary powers, has created legitimate concerns about the permanence of citizenship for millions of naturalized Americans. The core tension we're facing is profound. How do we balance maintaining the integrity of our immigration system while preserving the fundamental promise that citizenship represents? When someone takes the oath of citizenship, they're told they have the same rights as any other American. But as we've seen today, that's not entirely true. This raises uncomfortable questions about what it means to be American. Are we creating two tiers of citizenship pone for those born here and another for those who chose to become Americans? The Supreme Court's Maslanjak decision provides some protection, but with expanding categories for investigation and phrases like broad discretion, many naturalized citizens are understandably concerned. That's it for today's video. If you found this helpful, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. Got questions or thoughts? Drop them in the comments below. I read everything and love hearing from you. And if you want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon for all notifications so you never miss a video. YouTube doesn't always show you new uploads unless you select all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, peace be with you.